in the news over the last couple of days. We've had another reminder in this big dump of data coming out of Panama that tax avoidance is a big global problem. It's not unique to other countries because, frankly, there are folks here in America who are taking advantage of the same stuff. A lot of it's legal, but that's exactly the problem. It's not that they're breaking the laws, it's that the laws are so poorly designed that they allow people, if they've got enough lawyers and enough accountants, to wiggle out of responsibilities that ordinary citizens are having to abide by. Here in the United States, there are loopholes that only wealthy individuals and powerful corporations have access to. They have access to offshore accounts, and they are gaming the system. Middle-class families are not in the same position to do this. In fact, a lot of these loopholes come at the expense of middle-class families because that lost revenue has to be made up somewhere. Alternatively, it means that we're not investing as much as we should in schools, in making college more affordable, in putting people back to work, rebuilding our roads, our bridges, our infrastructure, creating more opportunities for our children. So this is important stuff, and these new actions by the Treasury Department build on steps that we've already taken to make the system fairer, but I want to be clear. While the Treasury Department actions will make it more difficult and less lucrative for companies to exploit this particular corporate inversions loophole, only Congress can close it for good. And only Congress can make sure that all the other loopholes that are being taken advantage of are closed. I've often said the best way to end this kind of irresponsible behavior is with tax reform that lowers the corporate tax rate, closes wasteful loopholes, simplifies the tax code for everybody. And in recent years, I've put forward plans repeatedly that would make our tax system more competitive for all businesses, including small businesses. So far, Republicans in Congress have yet to act. My hope is that they start getting serious about it. When politicians perpetuate a system that favors the wealthy at the expense of the middle class, it's not surprising that people feel like they can't get ahead. It's not surprising that oftentimes it may produce a politics that is directed at that frustration. Rather than doubling down on policies that let a few big corporations or the wealthiest among us play by their own rules, we should keep building an economy where everybody has a fair shot and everybody plays by the same rules. Rather than protect wasteful tax loopholes for the few at the top, we should be investing more in things like education and job creation and job training that we know grow the economy for everybody. And rather than lock in tax breaks for millionaires or make it harder to actually enforce existing laws, let's give tax breaks to help working families pay for child care or for college. And let's stop rewarding companies that are shipping jobs overseas and profit overseas and start rewarding companies that create jobs right here at home and are good corporate citizens. That's how we're going to build America together. That's how we battled back from this great recession. That's the story of these past 7 years. That can be the story for the next several decades if we make the right decisions right now. And so I hope this topic ends up being introduced into the broader political debate that we're going to be having leading up to election season.
And everyone in the world will applaud us.
What Panama has shown more than anything is that there's one rule for the rich and one rule for the rest. If you've got a lot of money, you put it in a tax haven. You get a big income as a result of it. You pay no tax on it. If you're a care worker, a street cleaner or a nurse, you don't have those options. You don't have those opportunities. You pay your tax. And I tell you, the anger out there of a lot of people who work really hard, pay the tax, and not offered negotiations with HMRC, they have to pay and they get fined if they're late. It cannot be right that we're just allowing people to shift resources offshore in order to avoid taxation in the UK, or indeed in parts of Europe, with the rather strange behaviour of some companies such as Google that move their billing arrangements to a lower tax regime in order to avoid UK tax, and many others as a result of it. There has to be a chasing down of this principle that seems to operate amongst the super rich in the world, that some or other taxes for somebody else, not for them. This is an international scandal that the Panama Papers have begun to uncover. I believe it's the tip of a very large iceberg. And I tell you, people that are seeing their local services cut, people that are seeing their health services in any country under threat, get very angry when they see the super rich not paying their way.
In terms of my own financial affairs, I own no shares. I have a salary as Prime Minister, and I have some savings, which I get some interest from, and I have a house which we used to live in, which we now let out while we're living in Downing Street. And that's all I have. I have no shares, no offshore trusts, no offshore funds, nothing like that. And so that, I think, is a very clear description. The second thing I'm responsible for is, of course, our tax system and for international tax policy. And I would say that no government, no Prime Minister has done more to make sure we crack down on tax evasion, on aggressive tax avoidance, on aggressive tax planning, both here in the UK and internationally. So we have recovered billions of pounds in our country by changing tax regulations and rules in budget after budget, billions of pounds. But we've also led the world in making sure we have, which we'll have in June, an open register of beneficial ownership so everyone can see who owns what in Britain.